Yeah, Chaperone definitely told that security guard to be mean to that kid.
Breaking news, the security guard wasn't even Chaperone's security guard and made the decision on his own.
Nah, Meg Thee Stallion didn't get shot, she just wants to tear a man down.
Breaking news, bullet fragments were found in Miss Stallion's foot, and evidence has convicted Tory Lanez.
Ugh, I swear Normani is so lazy now. No wonder she only has like 3 fans left.
Breaking news, both of Normani's parents were diagnosed with cancer, which caused her to slow down her music career.
I knew Elphaba was wicked all along. No wonder she stole the spellbook.
Breaking news, Elphaba took the spellbook because the Wizard of Oz wanted to oppress the animals with it. Hey you.
Wait, who, me?
Yes, you. Aren't you tired?
Of what?
Tired of being misinformed?
I mean...
Plus, don't you want to be more media literate so this doesn't keep happening to you?
Well, I guess it wouldn't hurt.
Well then, you're in the right place. Hi, my name is Carlin Green. I have a degree in journalism, previously worked as a national news producer, and have been a content creator for nearly 10 years now with many accolades for my work.
Oh wow, you're getting old. Oh sorry, my bad. Please continue.
Anywho, this is episode 1 of my media literacy series, which teaches you how to spot hate trains and smear campaigns. So share this video with someone you know, and let's get started. So first things first, let's define the differences between a hate train and a smear campaign. So both center around a group of people hating one or more individuals at a time because a false and/or negative narrative is spread, many people easily believe it, and the mental health plus reputation of the person centered is often harmed or even destroyed by it. And how would I know this? Because it happened to me too, with months of therapy. More on that later. Anywho, as for the differences, it mainly comes down to intent. So smear campaigns are done to intentionally cause harm, discredit someone, or protect themselves if the person targeted could potentially tell people the truth, which would expose them and ruin their relationships with others. Whereas hate trains are not caused by malicious intent, but rather are spontaneous plus typically accidental, and often start plus spread due to various cognitive biases. Plus, the term itself is typically used to describe intense online negativity, harassment, and criticism towards someone. With smear campaigns and hate trains, here are 5 biases plus 2 other things that often spread them. 1. If you already favor the other person who started the hate train or smear campaign, such as due to the halo effect or simply knowing them longer. 2. If you already dislike the person centered and confirmation bias kicks in when you hear negative info about them. 3. If you have an unconscious bias against them in some way, like due to their looks, demographic, or due to envy that you may not even be aware of. 4. If you have what's called negativity bias, which is when you outweigh negative info over positive or neutral information. 5. If you are experiencing anchoring bias, which is when you make a decision that heavily relies on the first piece of info you receive, such as if you believe the first side of a story without yet hearing the second side as well. Then there's also the bandwagon effect as well as groupthink. Now with both of these, they do not prioritize independent or critical thought, plus typically occur as an unconscious and automatic process. However, they differ in motivation. See, groupthink happens when people make irrational or non-optimal decisions due to the desire for group cohesion and consensus, whereas the bandwagon effect is when you adopt behaviors or beliefs simply because many others are also doing so. So essentially, groupthink is like people-pleasing to keep the peace, and the bandwagon effect is when people fall in line like mindless sheep. So with these biases in mind, as a journalist, one of the first things I learned in college about media literacy were these 5 principles. 1. To hear from both or all sides of the story. 2. Focus on facts, evidence, and logic. 3. To fact check when needed. 4. To be objective when analyzing info rather than centering your personal feelings and biases. And 5. To wait till sufficient information is available to determine where you stand instead of depending on conjecture. For instance, the situations with Chaperone, Normani, and even Elphaba from Wicked all happened because people already believed one narrative before ever hearing their side of the story. Or even with Megan Thee Stallion's court case and Manon from Cat's Eye when Dream Academy came out, with both of them, people already disliked them in some way, which made it all the more easier for people to fall for negative conjecture about them.
Breaking news in this Sunday afternoon, 5-time NBA champion, former league MVP Kobe Bryant died Earlier this afternoon in Los Angeles, in a helicopter crash.
Now, to give you an example of the harm conjecture in general can cause within media, I want to highlight this situation with Kobe Bryant surrounding the tragic accident that ended his life, his daughter Gianna's life, and 7 other people on that unfortunate day. So in 2020, Matt Gutman, who was the chief national correspondent for ABC News at the time, made a false statement that all 4 of Kobe Bryant's children were on that helicopter on that fatal day.
Earlier, I reported that it was believed that 4 of Kobe's children were on that flight. That is incorrect. Unfortunately, this is a horrible tragedy, and one of his daughters was on the helicopter at the time. But again, I apologize for those remarks earlier about Kobe's family on that helicopter.
So as a result of this false report, he was suspended from his position at ABC. So as you can see, when it comes to breaking news about tragic situations or even pop cultural conversations, it is so very important to wait till more concrete information is available, especially in this age of technology where it is so easy to Photoshop fake headlines and screenshots or create AI content for the sake of rage bait or engagement. Because otherwise, if you are not careful and patient about how you analyze information and fact check your sources, then you might find yourself in a situation that you deeply regret, such as how that journalist did.
Now that that has been covered, I want to share with you what I have identified as the 5 stages of a smear campaign, which I call the Elphaba effect. So stage 1 centers around the subject type. So this person typically has strong integrity, morals, and character, plus often is marginalized, successful, strong, or even very helpful and giving to others. And we see this with Elphaba, who is hated for her green skin and feared for her magical powers, yet even so was always a kind and genuine person who would even help those who judged her and were ungrateful. Then with stage 2, this centers around the subject's actions. So they end up doing one or multiple of these things. So for 1, they hold others accountable. 2, exposes or embarrasses them, even if it's unintentional. 3, they refuse to conform, such as to systems or expectations from others. Or 4, they leave a toxic place, and retaliation is likely to happen if others greatly benefited from the subject or if the subject could ruin them. So with Elphaba and Wicked, she left the land of Oz and took away the spellbook because she absolutely refused to oppress the animals with it. However, because she has so much power and could potentially ruin the wizard and Madame Morrible, that is when stage 3 is introduced and the smear campaign officially starts. So in stage 3, the subject is depicted as a problem based off of info that is inaccurate, illogical, incomplete, or sensationalized. And the other person who started the smear campaign is typically very powerful, popular, favored, or coddled and infantilized by others. Plus, the false narrative spread about the subject does not at all align with their track record, values, or actual character. Now, comparing to Wicked here, both the wizard and Madame Morrible lied by omission to people of Oz about the real reason that Elphaba took the spellbook by assigning malicious intent to her actions. And with stage 4, as mentioned earlier, those who easily believe it tend to already have some sort of bias, whether that be against the person targeted or a bias in favor of the person who started the smear campaign. So tying back into Wicked here, the smear campaign against Elphaba was an easy success because the people of Oz already disliked and feared Elphaba's green skin plus her power. However, outside of biases within psychology, there are also cognitive distortions that could affect someone's discernment. For instance, black and white thinking, which is when situations are viewed in extremes, such as good or bad, nice or mean, but with no nuance or middle ground in between. There's also another cognitive distortion called emotional reasoning, which is when you conflate your feelings with facts simply because they feel true, even if there is no evidence to support it. So for instance, let's say that you feel uncomfortable around someone, and from that you determine that they are unsafe and a bad person, even though that might not be true, but rather is your anxiety taking over. Or let's say that you feel like someone hates you because they haven't spoken to you in a while, when in reality that person is busy and getting their life together and still cares about you. And so with both of these common cognitive distortions within human psychology, it limits the ability to think critically and objectively in the moment. So if you know that you tend to jump to the absolute worst conclusions due to anxiety, being reactionary, or whatever else it may be, then when you see an issue take place, whether that be within media or your own personal relationships, then simply pause and wait till your emotions subside and you are able to assess the situation without any biases or cognitive distortions clouding your discernment. And as for the fifth stage of a smear campaign, this is when the subject is not believed by many people and isolated. And often this is when flying monkeys, aka the enablers in a smear campaign, are introduced via triangulation, which is a form of emotional manipulation often used by narcissists, abusers, emotionally immature people, or avoidant people. So within Wicked, the literal flying monkeys were sent out by the wizard and Madame Morrible to attack Elphaba and get the spellbook back. However, generally speaking here, the role of flying monkeys or enablers is to accuse, punish, control, or further confirm what they already believe to be true. So very rarely do they try to empathize with or understand the target of the smear campaign because they favor and believe, no matter what, the person who told them to confront on their behalf. And therefore, that makes them incapable of assessing the situation objectively with critical thought. Now, as for some more signs of enablers who may also confront you at some point in time in your life, well, here's a short video I put together that shows 10 signs of an enabler.
Wow, you're still not over that? So why do you have beef with them? Why are you being weird? I mean, yeah, it was disrespectful, but that's just how they were raised. I mean, I know they didn't apologize, but you just have to give them grace. Are you serious right now? Listen, we're too grown for this. What? They would never do that. Oh, come on. You know they're right about you. Just be honest with yourself. Why am I confronting you and not them? Well, because I enabled them and infantilize them. That's why. Wait, you're leaving them? But you do know they're going through a lot right now, right? Well, they're my ride or die, so if you leave them or hold them accountable, then I will block you and never forgive you.
Now, sometimes smear campaigns and hate trains can be significantly more convincing because there is an existing pattern of behavior, such as if someone has been mean, annoying, weird, or aggressive before. So with this, think of Shrek and how many people viewed him as mean and overall terrible, but he acted in such a way because he desired privacy within his swamp, and that in reality, he was still a good person. Which honestly reminds me of, dare I say, Chaperone, with how she is so negatively perceived by others due to how assertive and confrontational she is, but she acts in such a way so that her boundaries are not overstepped and she is not disrespected yet again by obsessed stalkers or paparazzi. But anywho, despite certain behavior and perceptions by others making specific people more likely to be hated, still objectively assess the situation that prompted the hate train or smear campaign, plus research the context and the validity of their past behavior. For instance, the context may sometimes show you that their negative behavior was justified and didn't happen unprovoked. For example, someone calls you a slur and you cuss them out for it. Plus, sometimes what seems to be true about someone is not, such as due to deep fakes and deceptive video editing that intentionally cuts out important context, misleading headlines from fake news outlets that sensationalize things for clickbait, or even AI-generated pictures and Photoshop screenshots from those who just troll and rage bait online for the heck of it. When you fall for a hate train or smear campaign against a public figure, it makes you all the more likely to also significantly misunderstand those you personally love and self-sabotage your relationships with them. Because I had this happen to me with some previous friends. So basically, they too joined the hate train against Normani specifically by thinking that she was just lazy and didn't care about her career anymore. And when they fell for that, my TISM pattern recognition skills were tingling and told me that it was only a matter of time before they also viewed me in such a negative way as well. Because in a lot of ways, Normani and I had certain things in common, like being highly successful and talented Black women who people expect perfection from. So essentially the type of people you put on a pedestal, right? Plus, if you know anything about being put on a pedestal or idolized, then people are almost bound to eventually turn on you when you make a minor mistake or do something that they simply don't like. And that their love and support can so easily turn into hate and ridicule. So essentially, you don't really get grace, but rather you get negatively labeled. And that is why when it came time that 2 of those ex-friends had certain issues with me, they didn't even bother to confront me, but rather gossiped and triangulated amongst one another, plus spread their misunderstandings about my intentions and feelings towards them as if they were true. And once I was finally confronted by someone who coddled them and was talking to me as if I was crazy, at that point I was no longer interested in saving the friendship, defending myself, or clearing my name. And this is similar to how in Act 2 of Wicked, Elphaba was done with exposing the wizard's lies, because clearly the people of Oz didn't like her and were biased to the wizard anyways. But anywho, because this was also the case with them, I decided to just gray rock the person who confronted me by giving emotionless short responses and acted as if the rumors about me were true, similar to how Elphaba did with the water supposedly melting her, just so that she could get away from the manipulated people of Oz who hated her. And from there, she was able to live happily ever after with Fiyero, who also saw past all the BS and had the courage to leave everything behind as well. And luckily, I too have my own Fiyero who walked away. Not in a romantic way, but platonic, because my best friend also left that friend group and was able to objectively assess the situation from both sides rather than letting her emotions or biases get in the way like how they did. And by doing so, she learned that a lot of what they were saying did not align with my track record, that important information had been omitted by one of them, and that certain narratives were inherently illogical. See, I kid you not, I had 3 separate therapists to try to objectively assess their issues with me, because as a journalist, I really care about analyzing things from a non-biased lens. And when you have the TISM like I do, you typically need logic in order to end the rumination loop, right? But even my therapists were utterly confused by how irrational they were being. Like, there was so much that I had to deal with because of them. But to keep things short here, they wanted me to apologize as an ultimatum for handing out concert tickets that they had already got fully refunded for and said they were unavailable to go. See, that's like selling your house and being upset that other people now live in it. Plus, at that point, these 2 people were both unreliable for expensive events due to previous cancellations. So why would I, or anyone for that matter, apologize and re-invite you? And on top of all of that, these were people who didn't even tell me the issues that they had with me directly, because they resorted to triangulation instead, simply because they thought it would evoke, and I quote, masculine energy. As you can see from all of what I have shared today, media literacy is dead. And it is causing people to easily fall for misinformation, hate trains, smear campaigns, and alt-right content like those ex-friends did. And that is why I am so passionate about utilizing my background as a long-time journalist and content creator by teaching people this, because a lack of media literacy can not only sabotage your life, but also the lives and mental health of others. Like, it has literally been years since I cut ties with those people. And till this day, I am still ruminating about how asinine that entire situation was with them. But anywho, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something new today. Feel free to comment below if you did, plus like, subscribe, and share with others you know to help them be more media literate as well. Also check out my other content on here, and finally feel free to follow and learn from my Instagram, TikTok, and Substack articles. Well, that's it. Bye.